Management and Cultural Policy Research dedicated a discussion on reshaping with the participation of Jordi as principal editor. Other events with a completely different type of audience was an invitation from the University of Arts Helsinki to present the report in front of to engage in a dialogue with art management students, and that was a different type of interaction with different type of questions, where of course you see the interest in topics such as digital, sustainable development, gender equality, where students are currently conducting their research and finalizing their theses. The German translation was mentioned, and it was so interesting to hear from Clara, not just the worth of having the translation, but also having events dedicated to the report and engaging the German-speaking audiences this way. And maybe the last one is an event where we were not involved directly, but was led by the Swedish Arts Council and the Swedish National Commission on the occasion of the World Day for Cultural Diversity. It was an event that was not dedicated specifically to reshaping, but where reshaping found a very nice context to speak about the state of contemporary cultural expressions around the world with that type of global perspective. These are just examples, and we were always pleased to lead, be engaged, or just learn about what's happening around the world and around reshaping.
Thank you, Iona, for sharing. I mean, just a few activities. No, there have been also other activities that have been taking place, but already I see that there's kind of a diversity of different audiences that have been targeted, whether it be students in the academia or cultural professionals within TAC, or the Swedish Arts Council and the National Commission is a different also type of audience, and it's quite encouraging to see that as well, that there is this kind of the breadth and the depth of the interest to this report. So thank you for sharing that. Yeah. Then I don't know if there are any questions at this point. Shall we continue? We just wanted to maybe invite one last speaker, and that would be Marie Le Saux. She is the co-author of Chapter 5 of the Reshaping Report, The Shifting Borders of Cultural Mobility. So Marie, welcome, and thank you for joining us today. So your expertise lies in mobility of artists and cultural professionals, which when we read the chapter, obviously it still is facing really fundamental challenges. Why is it important that these challenges are reflected in this report, Marie?
So first of all, Do-Yoon and your colleague, thank you very much for the invitation. And indeed, I also would like to fully acknowledge that we are two to write this chapter, The Shifting Border of Cultural Mobility. And Hannah Yazagi was also co-writing the article, the chapter with me. Indeed, I think it's very important to highlight the key challenge or obstacle that still very much frame, if I may put it this way, cultural mobility flow worldwide. But I think what we tried as well to show is also the form of solution that could exist in order to address this challenge. Of course, when we talk about challenges related to cultural mobility, first and foremost will come the issue of visa, which is really since the beginning, since the first edition. I think most of the edition started the article with Mike Van Graan, Khadija El Benawi, Anupama Sarkar. In the former edition started with a story, a sad story, a terrible story related to visa issue. And unfortunately, this is still very much the case. And unfortunately, for instance, the Article 16 on preferential treatment of the UNESCO Convention is still barely used or not enough used. However, what we try also to highlight is ways developed either by parties, by states, by government, but also by civil society organization, particularly with regard to access to information, not only for visa issue, but also for funding opportunities. So we try also to highlight these good case practices that could even be further developed if they were more supported, for instance. And last but not least, yes, let's talk about the challenge, but also about the complexity of the concept of cultural mobility. Depending on where artists and cultural professionals are located in the world, you know, this notion and these realities of mobility doesn't have the same meaning depending on context. So this is also what we wanted to highlight through the report by the parties, but also through you know, the data also collected through civil society organizations. So that's why also we highlighted some additional realities that were already addressed in the former edition on environmental sustainability and cultural mobility, the question of at-risk and displaced artists, so all the first type of mobility, or the question of artists, international mobility of disabled artists and cultural professionals. Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you, Marie. So I guess that confirms that indeed this chapter and the report is a dynamic research and policy research and knowledge tool. Now, if we could go one step further, as I said, in terms of its practical and actionable dimension, how can we actually use this report to be able to respond to these challenges or advocate for them? How can you share a few ideas on what the possibility may be?
Yeah. Thank you for the question, and I would relate to what Jordi said as well. You know, in each of the chapter, you have different, of course, analyses, but also case study that are highlighted. That can also be the basis sometime of some conversation. So, because sometimes it's also easier either for policymakers, funders, or representative of civil society organization to relate or to connect to initiatives that are closer also to their own context or their own practice, in order to see how also this could be adapted or multiplied in their own context. So I think this is one of the first ways to read also. I mean, here we are talking about a chapter on cultural mobility, but it could be on any type of topic. And what we try to do now, I mean, at the level of On the Move, it's also like not so much, at least for now, to have a specific event in relation with the report or in relation with the learning of this chapter or the report in general, but more to try to disseminate it in various conference or workshop in which we are invited. So it can be in a workshop with artists and cultural professionals, and to relate some of the learning, like on mobility access, funding, or on administrative issue on mobility info point, for instance. But to take two other examples that will happen before the end of the week, I am invited together with my colleague Claire-Roslyn Wilson in an NCAT talk, so, which is focusing on cultural mobility on the African continent. So definitely we will also relate to some of the learning of the Reshaping Cultural report. There is also a conference organized by ITI in Chemnitz and also online at the end of the week on a European project that focus on African and European cultural collaboration. Here again, through this Deconfining final conference, we will also connect on this topic. And last but not least, I think at the moment at the European level, as you may know, there is also a lot of negotiation in relation with the legal basis for the next program for the arts and cultural sector under this name of Agora EU. And for us, the report is also extremely important to in general and in particular on the mobility part, in order to advocate for a stronger international dimension of the program, particularly as far as people-to-people exchange is concerned. So we can use it eventually as a reference in different events, but also increasingly as well as an advocacy level. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Marie. Really very concrete in the way you have shared with us the possibilities to be able to use the report. I don't like that word "use" that much, but I think you all understand what I'm referring to. And I think, excuse me if I'm pronouncing your name properly, Matthews Mfune, would you like to ask a question?
Yeah, thank you very much for giving me an opportunity. I would like to ask a question. I was supposed to have asked it earlier on. I've noted that some of the speakers have already left.
I'm wondering whether it's by chance, do you have your cell phone next to you? Maybe if you might have to put it aside because there's some ringing sound and we can't hear you very properly.
You can't hear me properly.
Now it's fine.
There's an echo. Okay. I wanted to thank all the speakers, all the presenters for their presentations, and especially that as UNESCO, you have tried to review these policies. This is for the third or fourth time now, and you translate them into different languages. I think that's very encouraging. But I'm not sure what UNESCO might be doing in terms of translating these documents into further languages, especially local languages in the different countries. You know, like for example, in Malawi, we have got a community which has got more than 5 languages. And some of these can especially the artists and the cultural professionals, they can hardly follow these documents in English. I'm not sure whether there's a provision within the UNESCO, within your office, where different organizations like our NGO, we can be able to access the resources and ensure that we translate these documents, important documents, to different local languages so that the artists and the cultural professionals can be able to understand, to read and understand the documents, what they are all about. Because we believe these documents are not only for those of us in the offices, but they are supposed to reach out to the actual practitioners, the actual cultural actors on the ground in the communities. And most of them are not so educated to understand such documents which are in English. So I want to just find out if there is a provision for those countries where people would like to translate these documents into local languages so that we get to the actual cultural practitioner in the village. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you for your already for sharing also your very pertinent viewpoints on how important it is to translate the report in different local languages. I'll have to be quite still straightforward first to say that there is no provision per se, but this has been the case also for the last edition. At the same time, what we are doing, and for example, for the different interests that I had expressed in terms of the different expressions of interest and the 3 or 2 other languages that currently have been proposed. What we did was we're working with the field offices. As you know, UNESCO has a very wide network of field offices. So we're working with the field offices to try to identify potential also partners, also together with the public institution and local institution, to see if there could be any support in terms of translation of languages. So there won't be a direct financing from UNESCO, but we do make this extra effort to be able to, I mean, one of our strength of UNESCO is mobilizing also stakeholders and trying to also put you in contact with different implementation partners. And so this is what we're trying to do. So it might be interesting for you to reach out. I don't know if you are from the National Commission or whether you currently work in But I would really encourage you to actually also reach out to our field offices in your region. If you're in Harare, we do have a field office at the moment in Harare. And I think if like that, we can maybe be in discussion with also our field office and together with you to see what could be the possibilities. But UNESCO, I'm not sure if you are aware, but we're also currently undergoing a bit of a reform and very much touched by the financial crisis. So at this point, there are no separate provision for translations into different languages at the moment. Any other? Actually, this naturally, I think, leads us into, I think Luanda, very happy to see a very friendly face as well. Hello, Luanda. Please go ahead. The floor is yours.
Thank you, Dujun. Good morning from Mexico to everybody. I have a question for Jordi. He explained that the report was based not only on the QPRs, but also on information from civil society. So I'm wondering how many civil society from Latin America was like, which information from Latin American civil society was included in the report? Thank you.
Well, thanks a lot, Luanda. Yeah, just to put this in context. So, as we said, and you had also the data on the chat. I mean, this report is based on a very large number of national reports submitted by parties to the convention, roughly between 2023 and 2025, and those national reports, in most cases, include a main part which is filled in by governments. Through national teams that might involve different ministries and public bodies, as well as in some cases also independent members, as well as a section that includes examples provided by civil society organizations, and that is an integral part of the national report submitted by governments or by states to UNESCO. At the same time, we are, of course, aware that, I mean, and I think it's important to underline that the information provided by parties to the convention is very valuable, because I would claim that, at least for several regions in the world, it's very difficult to find good quality information on contemporary cultural policy developments that is available in international language. So that's a very rich source of information. And at the same time, we are, of course, aware that you cannot only rely on official responses, and that particularly for certain chapters, the information that parties might be able to provide is somehow limited. Say, for instance, the analysis of trade in cultural goods and services needs to rely on global data of international transfers of goods and services, and that is typically not available from national sources. You need to go to international databases. Similarly, or for different reasons, the analysis of artistic freedom or the analysis of restrictions to the mobility of artists and cultural expressions cannot come exclusively from official sources, because many of the challenges that exist in these fields will not be very transparently reported upon by parties. So we need to rely on information coming from independent monitoring mechanisms, from independent NGOs, from research reports, either from universities or from other sources that somehow present a more holistic understanding and analysis of the issues being addressed. So the work that is done by the individual authors in charge of the chapters, but also with support by POP Consulting, which is the company that is hired by UNESCO, has been hired in the last couple of editions by UNESCO to provide data for for the report combines these different sources. Now, to your question, it's I think I'm not in a position to provide a very concrete figure on the number of civil society organizations from Latin America that have been consulted. However, I mean, I can explain that some of them were integrated within the national reports presented by parties, and in other cases, they were identified by the authors of chapters in their research for the production of the chapters. One difference in this last edition when compared to the last couple editions of the Reshaping report is that this time we opted not to have a global survey for civil society organizations, which had been done a couple of times, but always led to relatively low number of responses. But on the other hand, some of the sources that have been used and which involve civil society organizations from Latin America and from other world regions, where, for instance, the latest edition of the survey on the implementation of the 1980 recommendations, as well as some of the results of the international consultation and the regional consultation that were done before the Mondiacult conference, which also included responses from civil society organizations. So it's the combination of these different sources that has fed into the report. I'm afraid that this is more or less the kind of information I can provide now, but I would be happy, if necessary, to later by email also exchange more on, let's say, some of the sources. I mean, of course, if you look at the bibliography or if you look at the detailed methodological section in the report, you can find a bit more detail on these aspects.
Thank you, Jody, for that answer. I see Ms. Renee Robinson has raised her hand. Yeah, welcome.
Hi, thank you. Good morning, everyone, or good evening, depending on where you are. I'm Renee Robinson. I am one of the Culture Expert Facility members from Jamaica, currently based in Panama. So my work is Latin America, Caribbean, moving across into Africa as well. And I'm just curious, I mean, earlier we had spoken a little bit about, in the introduction, you talked a little bit about tangible actions and how we can take the report and, you know, obviously the advocacy side of it and the promotion side of the material is always very important. But I was wondering if anyone could speak to, you know, some tangible ways that we can work with our national commissions or with our governments to activate some of the things that are coming out of the report, especially in regions like ours where data, as you know, is very difficult to come by. You know, making actual tangible changes that stick, also very difficult to come by. So if there's any sort of tangible recommendations that we can lift out and start pushing forward with our national commissions, if anyone could speak to that. Thank you.
Thank you for this question. Actually, we're here to discuss that and to try to identify ways to explore. I will maybe ask Maria and Jody perhaps to share a few insights as well, but I think it also depends on, as you know, as Jody said, we're talking about very specific monitoring areas, whether it be artistic freedom, whether it be gender equality, whether it be digital environment. So I think first, in some ways, to be able to cover all these issues might be quite ambitious. So, this is something, and I'm looking at Jody again, but this is something that we actually, in the process of building this report, we did have this ambition or very wish to or desire to be able to have some kind of also regional analysis. I don't know if Jody, you remember, which in the end, it was a bit more ambitious than we had thought, and we didn't end up doing. But at that, just to let you know that these are certain things that I think can be built for the future editions. But I think what's important is really you need to identify also what is the most relevant and pertinent for me, I think, to be able to already identify the specific needs first, that you feel that perhaps at the regional level or at the national level, and then build on that, because it's not easy to the report itself is so vast and it covers so many different areas. So I would think that obviously we can also promote the overall dynamic emergence or development of the cultural and creative sectors through the report. But I feel if you really want to tackle concrete ways, it's very important to already identify what are the specific needs and where you would like to focus on first. Maybe Marie, I'm wondering whether you would like to perhaps propose concrete. You did already share a few ways actually to be able to.
Yeah, maybe to
promote, yeah.
comment if it is, I mean, of course, my comment will be more in relation with the chapter on cultural mobility. We did focus on the Caribbean Cultural Fund on this respect, and also while highlighting not only for this particular fund, but in general also in relation with South-to-South mobility related issue, but also the specific issue that some island states are facing as well in relation with mobility. That can be unfortunately also linked to highest cost of travel, flight, air travel, and so on. So I think there are like some interesting initiatives that also, I mean, also at the level of On the Move, we would like also to carry on this question of South-to-South mobility. And we thought this particular example of the Caribbean Cultural Fund was an interesting and recent example to try to tackle this very specific challenge of mobility, because there are challenges in general, but depending, you know, on island states or this question of South-to-South mobility, indeed, there are like some specific obstacles that this fund is trying also to address. This is not the only one, but this was a quite interesting example, we thought, yeah.
Thank you, Marie.
Yeah.
I would just wanted to kind of delve a little bit deeper. The area that is of most interest for me, it would be on trading cultural goods and services, particularly as we see, you know, the data flows are very difficult in that sense. And then obviously we're thinking about in terms of export of services and wanting to be able to show that that these are tangible things that are impacting growth. And then as we see across our region, even just things as basic as having cultural satellite accounts are very few and far between. And so the process of getting cultural satellite accounts set up in order to be able to continue to have data around cultural trade, it has been, you know, really quite an uphill battle, as you guys can all imagine, I'm sure.
Yeah, thank you, Renee. I just wanted to add, and thank you for also pointing out the specific area you're interested. But I just also wanted to, so that everyone understands that actually all the examples and the number of countries that participated in this reporting was 120 countries plus the European Union. So it's a pretty large sample size, just to tell you, the whole research. I think it's really important to know that. And then just to tell you actually what the Secretary is currently also doing is we're trying to actually classify the examples and the good practices. And I assure you, we actually made a big effort to be able to highlight at least one example or practice from each country that reported. And so we're trying to actually build a table where could be useful for users to be able to have all the different examples gathered according to regional countries. And this is something that we thought maybe could be useful as a tool for you and for other stakeholders or actors who would like to promote the report. So I just wanted to put that on the table. But otherwise, if you read chapter 6, indeed, on the cultural flow of goods and services, and I'm thinking maybe that's why Jordi maybe might have raised his hand, is that there are very interesting trends at the moment happening around the cultural goods trade flows. You see that upper middle income and low income, middle income, there are these different kind of variations. And so really, and we would be more than happy to also put you in contact with the authors themselves as well, which is, I think, quite interesting, because there's maybe what's included in the report or the chapter, because we do have a limited kind of also possibility in terms of volume, does not represent the full vast breadth and depth of research that was done by each author. So I think it's very interesting if you could also connect with the authors themselves as well at a certain point. Yeah. So Jordi, I have a feeling you wanted to respond, no, to Rene's
just very briefly, because I think you've pointed out, and Marie as well, to the most important issues. Yeah, I mean, I would suggest making use of the recommendations that are raised at the end of each of the chapters, including chapter 6, to which Rene is referring, and then seeing which of those recommendations are relevant in the particular context, and then see how those could be articulated by either individually or by professional bodies or associations, depending on the case. And then the other thing is also finding different contexts in which those recommendations can inform reflections. I mean, I was recently taking part in a conference in Brussels in the context of a European discussion on the impact of AI on cultural and creative sectors, and some of the findings from the report on that particular matter spread across different chapters were good in terms of formulating recommendations or elements that could be relevant in that context. So yeah, I think it remains a useful reference publication which has a relatively long lifetime. So hopefully, I mean, we can find different opportunities depending on each context where that can lead to informing recommendations and debates.
Thank you, Jordi. And Rene, the discussion exchange continues. Please don't hesitate to reach out to us anytime. Yeah. Thank you. I had a feeling that Luanda had maybe wanted to ask a question or raise an issue again. No? Yes, please, Luanda.
I'm just wondering, from the civil society side, that we have been promoting the convention since like 10 years ago in Spanish versions, and it's not only about the translation, but how the convention is it real impact in the region, how it can be useful for us at the local levels. It's not only the translation. And now I am wondering, how can we as civil society work in a country that doesn't even have a focal point, a national point of contact for the convention? And also, because of that, and because in Mexico, actually, there's not really that interest in the 2005 convention from the government side. They don't even know about the work of the civil society observers of the governing bodies. So I was wondering how UNESCO is looking at this kind of situation, and if you have any strategy to help civil society get more connected to the national commissions.
Yeah, national focal points and national commissions are sometimes they're the same, but not always the same. So we do have actually one of the specificities of the convention is that it is a party's obligation to designate a national focal point. And I don't know if everyone is aware, but we actually launched a call for you to actually communicate to us an updated contact information of each national focal points in each country. And to date, we've only received 1/3 of answers. It could be also because perhaps the national focal point hasn't changed, etc. But otherwise, then we have the national commissions as well. So, and sometimes they do not always coincide, Luanda, in the sense that, they could be sometimes the same person. The national focal point could be someone in the national commission or not. And national commission, so national focal point is more within the scope of the 2005 convention, NESPA. And then you have national commissions, which are public institutions that are that have their mandate to promote and implement activities across all UNESCO. This includes not only the 2005 convention, but all the different sectors. So I'm not sure how the Mexican context is. I think it's for you to you will know best. But I do understand that according to different national focal points, and maybe some of the national focal points or national commissions here might want to also share a few of your experience and difficulties perhaps in promoting and implementing the convention. But it's true, it is somewhat a network for us, but I do acknowledge that each country has its own different kind of context and the way that the national focal point or the national commissions are structured, Rwanda. So I'm not sure actually how I understand your question, but I'm trying to also imagine how to give you a concrete answer or a very direct answer to what you're asking. But then that is why I think the civil society organizations are the strength of the convention, as you know very well. We've always worked very closely with the civil society organizations. I don't know if everyone is aware, but the 2005 convention is one of the rare cultural conventions at UNESCO that actually specifically have not only operational guidelines specifically on how to work together within the work of the governing bodies with the civil society organizations, but also acknowledge their active participation in the work of the governing bodies. At the same time, when we talk about at field level or at, I think, grassroots level, I think the best approach is really the bottom-up approach. And that's why I think we will have to remain, you will have to also inform us what could be the difficulties and maybe what you find could be the possibilities to be able to tackle that. It's just a vast answer, difficult for us to give you a very one kind of answer to your issues, but we heard you, and we I mean, it's well noted what you're trying to say. I'm wondering whether there are any other questions. As you can see, so the report is not a magic box. I think we all. It doesn't necessarily. It will present the challenges and perhaps the opportunities and some emerging trends, but it doesn't present straightforward solutions for you to pick and just apply at the national level. But at least if we can agree, I think we heard that it is a very good reference tool. It is something that we could use to advocate for a cause. It is something that we could use to identify the needs also at the grassroots level. And also perhaps sometimes just to create a buzz, because I think we're all here because we're very, the cultural and creative sector is so dear to us, and we really believe in also the cultural mandate to be very solid within public policy making. And so format might not be perfect. If that's the case, please also let us know, because we know that a 270-page report might not be the most digestible. We reduced it to 50 pages, the executive summary. But what does all those figures mean? So we also rely on you to let us know, do you feel that there could be some other formats that could be more useful at the national level to be, do you feel that the storytelling aspects are lacking, for example, in the report? Maybe that could be something we can also reinforce for more communication reasons, because we do live in a very communication-oriented society these days. Yes, I'm just looking out to see if there are any more questions as well, or if you would like to share your experience, that would be great as well. No? See. Maria Katkova, please go ahead.
Yeah, thank you. I just would like to share our experience in promoting the report, probably. In our chair, we have studying discipline to just to let the students know how UNESCO works and how UNESCO conventions, recommendations, and other documents work. And through this discipline, we shared this report, and also we will share it in our course book for this course. And I guess it's one of the best ways to let the students know about the UNESCO activities, actually the UNESCO, real practical activities. And well, that's it. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Maria, for sharing that. UNESCO Chairs, indeed, a very important partner for us. And as Iona had also mentioned in sharing the activities, I think her experience with actually being invited to be able to present to young students the report was something very inspiring, if I'm correct. No, Iona? Yeah. So we really, I think you might know that we have around 20, I mean, the UNESCO Chairs is a UNESCO wider network, but in terms of perhaps more direct relations with the convention, there are around 20 UNESCO chairs at the moment working with us. Yeah. I don't know if Jody and Mary, would you like to share perhaps some final words? If we don't have any more questions.
I think I am good. If there is any, but it's what also you suggested, but for the other author for the next chapter to René. But of course, if there is anybody that would like to contact me as well, or Hannah, in relation with the chapter on cultural mobility, do not hesitate. I can leave my email. I think it's also part of what we understand as well is this report need to be used as part of a conversation, and indeed there is much more knowledge that was compared with what was shared in the publication. Yes, so I will leave my contact, and thank you again for the invitation.
Thank you, Mary. Even proposing to also share your contact details on the spot. Jody, any final words?
Same here. Just to highlight that I think a session like today's helps to somehow set the scene and present a bit the report, but also to begin a process, and hopefully everyone can keep that in mind and find the right opportunities and the right context where the contents of the report will be useful. As Toyun was mentioning earlier, I mean, because of the diverse regional contexts and so on, a good starting point can be to look for the information about your particular countries or regions that is presented in the report. And one thing that we know is that often, say, for governments, it can be an element of pride to be featured in one of the chapters. So that can always be an entry point to generate certain conversations. And then also to look at examples coming from neighboring countries or other contexts that are similar to yours, which could be inspiring in terms of then furthering the conversations. And of course, looking also for partnerships across borders where relevant, and you can indeed count on us as well where relevant to have more detailed conversations on the relevance of the arguments and the examples and the recommendations for each concrete context.
Thank you very much, Jody, for your time, but also sharing these very encouraging final words as well. And I think for me, it just remains for me to thank you very much. I really hope this session was useful for you. We're actually organizing a second session tomorrow at 4 p.m. So Paris time, 4 p.m. Tomorrow it will be in French, and then one last session, the third session on Thursday at 10 a.m. If ever you want to join us again. I think there's a lot to digest as well. I show you, even for me, I'm still, every time I read this different chapters, I feel like I'm reading a new chapter all again. So just to say, maybe it could be interesting for you to go through a few chapters and join us either tomorrow or on Thursday, and you might have other questions that you would like to share with us or experiences. So thank you very much, everyone. And the Secretariat remains really fully at your disposal. If you have any questions, if you would like to share some ideas, we will be more than happy to exchange also separately and individually with you. And so I guess I would like to just wish you all a good morning, good afternoon, and a good evening as well. And the remaining rest of the day. I don't know if you're in a heat wave. We are currently in a heat wave. And so I be in good health, and we will be able to communicate again and to hopefully meet again soon. there you are. You have the QR code and and also the convention's email address as well. Thank you.